We have a terrible, swift sword.
Peggy Noonan's with us. Columnist for the
Hello,
Wall Street
good morning.
Journal. Keep going.
Gosh, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I just think it's a wonderful moment. It took 9 years and 9 months, if I am counting correctly. It took a lot of persistence and patience. U.S. Armed Forces did the job. An actual monster has been removed from the face of the earth. It is good damn news.
Yeah, really.
I want to go to David Ignatius again and just ask you, David, about how this has been going on behind the scenes, despite the fact we haven't heard Osama bin Laden's name very much, frankly, coming from the mouths of government officials and certainly not from President Obama. We read in this timeline now that within a couple of months of coming into office, he told Leon Panetta, I'm giving you a directive to capture or kill Osama bin Laden. So can you just talk about how important it was for the president and his team to keep bin Laden's name out of the public discussion, even as they were pursuing him behind the scenes?
Willie, in talking to my sources, I heard about an operation that dates back over many years. As I said, the initial tip that led to yesterday's killing of bin Laden came from some of the detainees who were subject to our very aggressive interrogation methods, who gave up the nickname of a courier that they thought bin Laden had used, the nickname. It took from 2004, let's say, until 2007 to figure out who the real person behind that nickname was. So that was going on all through the Bush administration.
All right, George.
And then they had to figure out where does that real person live, and that happened mostly on President Obama's watch.
Adding to the conversation now, joining us also from Washington, former National Security Advisor for the Carter administration, Dr. Zbigniew Brzezinski. And Dad, I just wonder, as we look at the intricacies of this operation, big picture, what does this say in terms of where we found him and how he was living about our relationship with Pakistan as we move forward now?
I think they're going to be tested. They're going to be tested very seriously, because on the one hand, the Pakistani government will have to swallow the fact that we could go in close to their capital and do what had to be done, apparently without their compliance or knowledge, which puts them in an awkward position. But I assume the Pakistani government will be intelligent enough to identify itself with what happened, to disown any notion of protection for bin Laden, and essentially to take the stand that this is a good thing for Pakistan as well. The more problematic aspect is what's going to happen on the popular level. This is a country of 180 million people. We went right into the middle of it. We did what had to be done. We did it well. But for them, and for some of them, it may be an extremely bitter pill to swallow. So we have to watch the political play in Pakistan. And then, incidentally, there's another country which bears watching, somewhat for the same reasons, and that's Saudi Arabia. Because bin Laden is from Saudi Arabia. There is a public outlook in Saudi Arabia on a part of the population that's rather sympathetic to what he has symbolized. So that's going to be the other country to watch in terms of our sort of major relations with some of the key Islamic states.
Dr. Brzezinski, David Gregory is also in Washington, moderator of Meet the Press, and he has a question for you now. David.
Dr. Brzezinski, you're quoted widely in a Ryan Lizza piece in The New Yorker about the president's approach to foreign policy. And I wonder, with such a huge development on the map as this, what you think we learn in more detail about that approach to that next chapter in the war on terror, and how it extends now to the kind of leadership that will be required to bringing the war in Afghanistan to a close. His disapproval for the war in Afghanistan is at a high of 49%, just months now before we're going to start withdrawing troops. And, of course, the debate was, if you want al-Qaeda, they're not in Afghanistan, they're in Pakistan. No greater example of that than what this has just been pulled off.
Well, first of all, let me say I was really proud of the president last night. I thought he was presidential. I thought he had this historical perspective. He was balanced. He was committed. He was strong. And that came across. And that was really impressive and reassuring. I have disagreed with him on issues. I have been critical of him on some issues. And now the test, as far as I'm concerned, is how do we play it after this great, great breakthrough? And I think we are in a position to ask ourselves, can we in some way, if not put to an end, then at least greatly reduce what was mounting over the last decade, namely a bigger and deeper conflict between America and the world of Islam? This is a chance. We shouldn't crow. We should make it clear that we consider Osama bin Laden as an aberration. We should re-emphasize the common interests. And on that basis, we should address some of the outstanding, lingering problems that have complicated our relationship with the world of Islam. And among them, very important, it's maybe awkward to be raising it at this moment, but it's relevant, the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. All of that now has to be addressed, in addition to other issues such as Libya, Egypt, and so forth. But this is a moment of opportunity, and I thought the president played it well, and now is an opportunity to really develop a strategy and to implement it assertively. And he showed himself as a leader yesterday, and I hope that is going to be now the momentum that will carry him forward.
Dr. Brzezinski, given that Pakistan has been a very weak ally of ours, if you can call them an ally, let's circle back to another country that you mentioned a few moments ago, Saudi Arabia. What can be done now to strengthen our relationship with Saudi Arabia, perhaps get them more aligned with us in this war on terror, given the fact that they've been estranged for a couple of months over what happened to President Mubarak in Egypt?
I think we have to reopen the dialogue in whatever fashion it is possible, and preferably quietly. The Saudis are proud people. They have a sense of their own worth. The dynasty, at the moment at least, is still strongly established. I don't think we ought to hector them publicly or lecture them publicly. Saudi Arabia is somewhat different from the other Muslim countries because it is simultaneously a deeply embedded dynastic state, more than probably is desirable in this century, and that's its longer-range problem. But it is also a state which is the seat of the religion. It's the center of focus point of the religion, and therefore it gives it a very special standing. And I think we have to be very careful how do we handle it and engage it at the same time in this larger process of promoting peaceful change in the Middle East within the Islamic countries and peaceful change within the Middle East between the Islamic countries and the non-Islamic participant in the Middle East, and that, of course, is Israel, because we have that, too, as a huge stake of importance to us, and it's something which is of great, great concern to the people in the region.
We've got the New York Times' Charles Blow with us. Charles, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, one thing that strikes me is to look back just a couple of months. You know, we just had a midterm election where the war never even came up. On so many people's radar, the entire war had disappeared. Pollsters had stopped even asking about the war on a regular basis. You have a whole generation of young people, as someone mentioned before, where this is not, they've lived with it for so long, they've become numb to it. Gallup did a poll last month where people said, 42% of people said it was a mistake to even go there in the first place, and how this event today kind of brings that full circle and refocuses the attention, the American attention, back on the reason that we went there.
People also immune to it, not even feeling like they have any stake in it at all.
Even I mean, I often only see soldiers when I'm in an airport. I mean, it jolts me back and reminds me that there's another kid, and they really look like kids.
So young.
I think this changes the conversation.
Going off to war.
Well, Peggy, there was such a focus after 9/11, and so many Americans were so grateful for what our troops had done. And I've got to say, even through the ugliness of the political debates in Iraq, America has remained focused in not repeating the mistakes of the Vietnam era and holding up our military men and women and the sacrifices they've made, despite some bad decisions out of Washington. And I suspect, as Charles said, we will have a refocus again today.
I think so. We'll be talking about the entire region again, Mika, as your father said. But I'll tell you, let me pick up on something Mr. Glow said. The young people, the young soldiers, we all see going through the airports. We all see more in the past decade on the streets and integrated into our lives. They're in our families. We learn something from them, from their competence and from their discipline. Last night, it was the young who came out at Ohio State, in New York in Times Square, at West Point. It was young people feeling pride and delight.
Outside of the White House, young people,
outside
Republicans,
the White House,
Democrats, independents.
Everybody, but I love
America.
what's going on with the young. I mean, you can see, when you see that tape, they feel pride. I mean, good pride, not bad nationalistic, we're
right.
number one stuff. They feel good. We have done the right thing. We did it well. We removed this guy from the face of the earth. It's a wonderful thing. So I find it very moving. I just love seeing these tapes.
With the same understanding, and it's something that Mika has underlined since we came on at 5:30 this morning, David Ignatius, that the battle continues. This is not the end. But you actually wrote a book with Dr. Brzezinski, or you participated in a book with Dr. Brzezinski that had conversations between Dr. Brzezinski and Brent Scowcroft. We don't have Brent with us right now, but have a conversation with Dr. Brzezinski this morning.
Let me put a question to as big as I often did in the process of writing this book, which is simply this. We are watching celebrations around America, this sense that we've accomplished our mission, a sense of joy and exuberance. To what extent, Dr. Brzezinski, do you think we can connect that feeling we have as Americans with what's going on around the world? You've written about a global political awakening that we're seeing spreading across the Arab world, across the whole of the world. That's the big thing that's happening. How is killing Osama bin Laden by tough, smart American special forces yesterday going to fit with that larger narrative?
I think that's a terrific question. I think that really gets at the heart of the problem. You're absolutely right. The Islamic world is awakening. It's awakening politically. It's becoming politically activated. And this is one of those moments in which we can either engage that awakening and embrace it in some fashion and steer it in the right direction, or it can turn against us. And I think we have to be both delicate and decisive. Delicate in understanding its aspirations, decisive in making it clear that anyone who deplores the killing of bin Laden, and I just saw on the screen an indication that some parties in the Islamic world are deploring, condemning the killing of bin Laden. Anyone who does that is in effect endorsing and associating himself or herself with 9/11, with the mass murders committed against Americans. And this is a moment of choice, not just for us, but it's a moment of choice for them. But at the same time, in that context, we recognize that they also have rights, that they want to be part of the modern world. The time of change has come to them, and that we're going to be helpful. And then we have a whole agenda helping the Egyptians consolidate, encouraging the Saudis to transform, finish this messy and inchoate business in Libya, promote an Israeli-Palestinian reconciliation that makes Israel a permanent, legitimate, acceptable part of the Middle East forever, giving it security which it deserves on the basis of justice for the Palestinians. We can work with the Turks more closely to influence the events in Syria because they have a lot of influence. This is a moment for really decisive strategic self-definition of our position and pursuit of an objective which is in our vital interest, which is the stabilization of our presence in the Middle East.